In this video we're going to talk about the different ways to work the Bink spoon. I've got a 1/2 ounce mini shad. We're sitting in about 16 foot of water. One of the most common ways to use it is just plain vertical jigging. So I'm going to drop my spoon all the way down to the bottom here, marking a few fish on the bottom. Okay, as soon as it hits the bottom, lock in my belly and just start snapping it. Okay, they're normally going to hit on the fall. And I'm letting it free fall. I'm snapping it up and I'm letting the spoon fall. Free fall. Now some guys like to do what they call tight lining, where they bring it up and they want to feel that spoon all the way down. Okay, so they wait till the line's tight and then let it down. I personally don't recommend it, but a lot of guys do it that way. Okay, snap, let it fall. Snap, and let it fall. That's all there is to vertical jigging. If you're in deeper water and the fish are suspended, then you either drop the spoon down to the bottom on a bait cast. Most bait casts, you have about 2 foot per crank. This is a high gear ratio one, so this is more like 3.5 foot per crank or 3 foot per crank. So if you're in 60 foot of water, they're suspended at 40 foot. So you take it down to the bottom. On this one, you take it up about 6 or 7 cranks to get the fish. You typically want your spoon to be working above the fish, because fish can typically see up but not down, or they'll look up at a bait but not down. Now, if you're out in on the Great Lakes looking for schools of salmon, that are suspended, might be 100, 150 feet deep, and they're only 40 foot down. You're not going to want to drop the spoon down 150 feet and bring it up to 40. So there's a couple ways you can do it. If you have a bait cast where typically back and forth one time on a bait cast is 10 foot, you're just going to drop it, watch your line go back and forth 4 times. You're at about 40 feet. The other thing is, if you're using live scope or even on most depth finders, you can see, if you're lined up with your transducer, you can see your spoon when you're working it too, so you can tell what depth you're at. So whatever way you can get that spoon to the depth that the fish are, that's what you need to do. Okay, other ways when you're vertical jigging, 95% of the time, what I just showed you is going to work. Sometimes, when they're being a little more finicky, take and drop the spoon down to the bottom, and then just reel it as fast as you can. We're only sitting in 15 foot of water now, so this isn't going to work here, but let's say you're in 40, 60 foot of water. Okay, reel it as fast as you can, about 20 times, drop it back down to the bottom. Reel it as fast as you can, about 20 times. Drop it back down to the bottom. Just keep doing that. A few weeks ago, that's the only way Bink could get them to hit. Stripers to hit on North Fork. Just reel as fast as you can. Drop it down. You're just reeling that spoon up through the fish, and in this case, they're going to hit it on the way up. Other things you can do when you're vertical jigging, if just the normal method doesn't seem to be turning them on, you can slow down your bounce, especially for walleye. Okay, just make it just a little bounce like this. Okay, some people like to take and just bring the rod way up in the air and then just let it fall. Sometimes that'll work. I think Bink's wife, Rum, does it this way, and she always catches the biggest fish, so there must be something to it. Okay, when that spoon's falling, when it's free falling, if all of a sudden you see a bunch of slack in your line, like that, I'm doing that just because I'm dropping it so fast, but if you're dropping it normal, all of a sudden you see a bunch of slack in your line, you more than likely got a fish on there. You want to set that hook. That thing just got scooped up by a fish. When you're fishing for king salmon out in the harbors of Lake Michigan in the fall, we do a lot of that. Sometimes those salmon will hit those spoons on the bottom and they'll just shoot straight up. And so if that happens to you, you just reel as fast as you can until you're tight, and then set the hook. Okay, one other thing that I've seen, Tony Coatney is a professional fisherman and guide down on Grand Lake. I was out fishing with him a couple weeks ago. What he does, when he brings it up, I don't even know how he does it. He gives just a couple quick flips of the rod when it's up at the top and lets it fall. That seems to work good for him. Okay, so there's lots of different cadences and methods that you can try. Okay, the second would be what we call horizontal jigging. Okay, we're sitting, like I said, in about 16 foot of water. There's a point that comes way out in the lake here. In this area, this is about 45 foot deep, but we're up on a point, and it gets shallower out this way. It gets down to about 10 feet. So what we'll do is cast, let the spoon fall all the way to the bottom. Okay, once it hits the bottom, just start snapping it, working it back to the boat. Let it keep going to the bottom. Okay, again, the fish are going to hit on the fall. And again, some people like to keep a tight line all the way down so they can feel the bite or feel the hit. I don't do that. Bink doesn't do that. You can typically, if you watch your line, you can see when you get hit. Otherwise, you feel it. We use pretty sensitive rods, and we can always feel the hit on the way down without the line being tight. Okay. Try one more time here. Again, work it back to the boat. And again, you know, you can try, especially with walleye, you can try lower or smaller snaps. You know, just bring it up 6-8 inches off the bottom. Okay, or you can do the big snaps. Just need to kind of play around and see what it is they're looking for. Okay, and something I just learned from a guide up on Green Bay that does a lot of horizontal jigging with our spoons for walleye. He told me, when you get this back to the boat, when you get the spoon back to the boat, instead of reeling it up, sit there and vertical jig about 7 or 8 times. He says they catch a very high percentage of their fish right underneath the boat. The walleye will follow it as it's coming in. So snap it 7 or 8 times, right, vertical jig right under the boat before you bring it in. Similar to a musky fisherman who's going to do that figure 8 when it comes in. Okay, a third way, in this lake here, we have hybrids or wipers, depending on what part of the country and whatever you want to call them, that just roam in the summertime. They roam all around this lake, and the average depth out in the main part of the lake is 40 to 45 feet. They're suspended at about 10 to 12 feet because we have a thermocline here, and we have no oxygen below the thermocline, so they're not going to be down any deeper than that. The thermocline sits at about 17 feet, but the hybrids roam at about 10 to 12 feet deep, just chasing different balls of shad throughout here. They're always roaming, so it's hard to get on top of them. Occasionally we can get on top of them vertical jig, but when we can't because they're roaming, we'll troll around with a crankbait shad wrap looking for them, and then when we see them, yeah, I've got a half-ounce mini shad on here. I know it takes about 5 seconds for that mini shad to drop 10 feet. So again, we'll cast it out right into the spool, count down to 5, 4, 5, then start snapping it. Okay, so you're working it so it's falling about 10 feet. it, you know, in 5 to 10 foot area. And again, they're going to hit on the fall. Next would be when these wipers start busting the top. Okay, there's nothing better than using a spoon for 2 reasons. I mean, there's obviously lots of ways you can catch them when they're busting the top. Bass assassins work, rattle traps, topwater lures. But the nice thing about the spoon is you can cast it a mile, especially if you have like a 6.6 medium action rod. You can cast these things long ways. There's 2 ways that you can work. There's actually 3 ways you can work these spoons when you're working topwater fish with them. One is cast it out into the school, and as soon as it hits, just start ripping it. Let it fall, rip it. Let it fall, rip it, let it fall. And again, they're going to hit on the fall. Okay, just rip it, let it fall, rip it, let it fall, rip it, let it fall. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another, again, cast out into them, okay, and let it fall just a little bit, and then just start working it, snapping it like you normally would horizontal jigging, but you're trying to work the top 5 foot of the water column. This is very effective for white bass also. Okay, and again, they're typically going to hit it on the fall. Okay, when they're busting those shad on top, they're going and they're running into those shad and killing them. And when those shad are falling, that's when they come back and grab a hold of them or eat them. That's why they're going to hit on the fall. The other thing you can do, and I found this out by accident, I was casting into some hybrids, and I made a bad cast. I went too far off to the left. So what I did, as soon as I realized I had a bad cast, I just started reeling that thing in as fast as I can, because I wanted to get back out there. When these hybrids come up on this lake, they don't stay up very long. Okay, so I wanted to get it back in. Well, that thing hammered it when I was reeling it in. This also works for largemouth bass on farm ponds for some reason. It works really good on farm ponds. I'm not really sure. I don't do a whole lot of largemouth fishing, but in farm ponds where you can almost cast anywhere in the pond standing from shore in one place. Not necessarily reeling it in quite that fast, but reeling it in at a medium, just to keep it up towards the top of the water, across all the weeds. That works real good. And that pretty much covers every different way to work this spoon. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. We've got other videos up talking about types of rods to use, what's the best kind of rod to use, how to determine what color to use, how to determine what size to use. And we're going to be putting species-specific videos up. So make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can get updates when we put up new videos.